Is the City Council ready? Okay. Good evening. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our City Council meeting tonight. As I've said in the past, this is also a Buena Sanitation District meeting, as well as a Community Development Commission meeting. We'll ask the City Clerk to affirm that most of us are here.
The record will reflect that all members except Mayor Pro Tem Ritter, Community Development Commissioner Vice Chair Ritter are not here.
Mrs. Ritter is excused from this evening's meeting, has other business that she's taking care of. We'll now be honored to have Reverend Michael Carr of the All Saints Episcopal Church come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you'd remain standing for the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gracious and loving God, look with compassion on the whole human family, and especially on this council meeting in our city of Vista. Take away the arrogance and hatred which infects our hearts. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in bonds of love, and work through our struggle and confusion to accomplish your purposes on earth, that in your good time, all nations and races may serve you in harmony around your heavenly throne. Lord, hear our prayer. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Carr. We appreciate your coming over and doing this. You had such a long distance to come across the street. Okay, the next item would be the approval of the agenda, and I'll ask the city manager, Mrs. Geldert, to tell us about a change in the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. There is one change in the agenda. We will need to remove public hearing number 2, the downtown specific plan, this evening, and notice it for our April 13th agenda. And because we won't have a specific quorum based on Mrs. Ritter's absence this evening and a conflict of interest of 2 other council members.
Okay, so that means public hearing number 2 will be continued to April the 13th. Prior to, that's the only changes that are taken? Okay. Prior to this meeting, we did hold a closed session to discuss certain matters that need to be reported upon. Mr. Piper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the mayor, the council met in closed session on items CS1 and CS2 on this evening's agenda, and no actions were taken that are required to be reported at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have some presentations that we would like to make this evening, and I'll come down to the microphone. First proclamation is Child Abuse Prevention Month. We'd like to ask Mr. Carol Randa, with the San Diego County Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. Okay. This is a proclamation that okay, that helps. That helps. We're now on. Okay. This is a proclamation that is issued. I think we've issued this before, and this is an annual thing, and it's a very worthwhile proclamation that has to do with child abuse prevention in the city of Vista. So let me read the proclamation, and that'll explain it in greater detail. It says, whereas the public cares deeply about child abuse, and a majority of the people report that child abuse is a very important moral issue to them. Whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on involvement among people throughout the community. Whereas child abuse and neglect not only directly harms children, but also increases the likelihood of long-term physical and mental health problems, alcohol and substance abuse, continued family violence, and criminal behavior. Whereas child maltreatment occurs when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources, leaving them not knowing how to cope. Whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable if engaged and support. If engaged, I'm sorry. This doesn't make sense, right, this part, but it says, whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable in an engaged and supportive community. Got you there. And whereas child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure each family has the support they need to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment, and whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among social service agencies, schools, faith community, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and business communities. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do urge Vista residents, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the community in which we live. It is with this that we, as the mayor and members of the Vista City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2010 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Vista. And the proclamation is signed by each member of the City Council. And Mr. Randolph, I'd like to present this proclamation to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
And if you'd like to...
I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for the proclamation. Right now, we have one of our commission members here. The commission is made up of 45 members throughout the county. The county is broken down into regions, and within those regions, there are community members. Community collaboratives is what we call them. Mr. Donald Stump from the North County Lifeline is our commission member for North Coastal and North Inland. He has to have two regions because he does a lot of good work. Donald?
On behalf of the commission, I thank you for the proclamation, and there is a great wealth of resources in the community that we're all constantly reaching out. So North County Lifeline, our partner agencies, the community clinics are glad to help the community with any child abuse related issues that happen in the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some of you may have noticed that we have a group of lovely young ladies that are sitting here in the front row. And so tonight we'd like to pay tribute to those that have served the community so well in the past year and to those that will be serving the community and participating this coming year. Now, it looks like we have some absences, so I'm going to read the names of the outgoing queens and courts, and if I could have the outgoing queens and their, the outgoing queen and her court, and for Miss Pride of Vista, and then also for Miss Teen Tri-City, come forward. So first of all, Miss Pride of Vista 2009, Megan Ainley. And Pride of Vista Princess 2009, Olga Salmon. Okay. Pride of Vista Princess 2009, Alexandra Huerta. Miss Teen Tri-City 2009, Bianca Salgado. And then Teen Tri-City Princess 2009, Danielle Unheim. And Teen Tri-City Princess 2009, Jordan Cogley. This will be up here twice tonight. Okay, I have a couple of proclamations that I'd like to review and paying tribute to our two queens and for the things that they've done in the community. And I think it's significant that whenever we have community events, that they're always there and that they provide a real service for the community. And there are a lot of activities that we're not at that they're at as well. So that they provide everyone a good idea of what this is all about. The first one is, this is a proclamation to Megan Aimley. And it says, whereas when Megan Aimley was crowned, I don't know what it is tonight, but I'm having a hard time with this microphone. It says, whereas when Megan Aimley was crowned Miss Pride of Vista on March 14th, 2009, a great honor was bestowed on her on recognizing her character, confidence, dedication, and service to the city of Vista. Whereas Megan has volunteered in community service projects during her year as Miss Pride of Vista, including the Pride of Vista Lions Club annual dictionary distribution to third graders. Whereas Megan has volunteered at various civic and charity events, including the Vista Easter Egg Hunt, the MS Walk, Vista Town Site, Little Miss Cinco de Mayo, Vista Village Business Association Chocolate Festival, the Scottish Highland Games, the Viking Festival, the Vista Downtown Tree Lighting Ceremony, Rod Run, Strut for Sobriety, Yoli Robledo Fundraiser, Charlie Harb Annual Golf Tournament, and the Amigos de Vista Lions Annual Pancake Breakfast, and the Christmas Gift Give. Wow, you guys are busy. And whereas Megan has volunteered and helped to raise funds to further nonprofit organizations such as the Pride of Vista Lions Club and Serve San Diego, Vista's Boys and Girls Club, and the Carlsbad Lions Club. And whereas Megan has represented the Vista Chamber of Commerce at Sundowners, ribbon cuttings, and the Golf Chamber Golf Tournament, and the Vista Day at the San Diego County Fair. Whereas in Megan's year as Miss Pride of Vista, she learned the history of Vista, made lasting friendships, and has learned about the many organizations in the city of Vista and San Diego. And whereas the Vista City Council thanks Megan for her hard work as Miss Pride of Vista and her dedication to making the community a better place, and wishes her the best of luck in her future endeavors. And now, therefore, the mayor and members of the city council do hereby proclaim March 24th, 2010 as Megan Aimley Day in the city of Vista. Megan? Thank you very much. Okay, next to Bianca. Whereas when Bianca Salgado was crowned Miss Teen Tri-City on March 14th, 2009, a great honor was bestowed upon her in recognizing her character, confidence, dedication, and service to the city of Vista and the Tri-City area. And whereas Bianca has volunteered at various civic and charity events, again, including many of the same ones that I'll not read again, but that we just talked about. And whereas Bianca has volunteered and helped to raise funds to further nonprofit organizations, again, such as the Pride of Vista Lions Club and the Vista Boys and Girls Club and the Carlsbad Lions Club. And whereas Bianca has represented the community and the Pride of Vista Lions by participating in the Vista Christmas Parade, the Oceanside Freedom Days Parade, the Poway Heritage Parade, and the Mother Goose Parade. And whereas during Bianca's year as Miss Teen Tri-City, she learned the history of Vista and made lasting friendships, and has learned about the many organizations in the city of Vista and San Diego County. And whereas the Vista City Council thanks Bianca for her hard work as Miss Teen Tri-City and her dedication to making the community a better place, and wishes her the best of luck in her future endeavors. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do hereby proclaim Thursday, March 25th, 2010, as Bianca Salgado Day in the city of Vista. Now, we have no, stay here. I want, if I could, to introduce the newly crowned queens and their court, those that are here tonight. This would be Miss Pride of Vista 2010, Julia Aimley. You got a relative up here? And then the Pride of Vista Princess 2010, Erica Ortega. She's not here. Pride of Vista Princess 2010, Angela Geck. And then Miss Teen Tri-City 2010, Candace Robinette. And then the Teen Tri, I'll announce these other two, although they're not here. Teen Tri-City Princess 2010, Jordan Cogler. And Teen Tri-City, oh yeah, she's here, right here. That's why I say you're up here twice. Teen Tri-City Princess 2010, Caitlin True. So congratulations to you all, and we'll look forward to working with you this year. And it's a pleasure. I know the City Council and the Chamber of Commerce and all of the other organizations that you help are greatly appreciative of what you do. So thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we have another proclamation, and this is Fair Housing Month. And Karen, would you like to come forward? Karen Thompson? This is a proclamation that we issue annually as well, and I think it's very, very needed, and not only in our community, but in other communities throughout the region. And so let me read it, and then I'll ask you to say a few words. Okay, so whereas federal and state fair housing laws prohibit discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, sexual preference, family status, disability, or source of income. And whereas the City of Vista receives federal community development block grant funds as an entitlement community and is required to engage in fair housing planning. And whereas the City of Vista affirmatively furthers fair housing by providing fair housing services and information to residents as a part of the fair housing program adopted by the City Council. And whereas the federal government has designated the month of April as Fair Housing Month, during which interested parties from the public and private sectors will participate in a nationwide effort to provide education about fair housing laws and to promote fair housing practices. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do hereby proclaim the month of April 2010 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Vista.
I'd like to officially thank Mayor Vance and the members of the City Council. No Karen Thompson Day, though, Mayor? No Karen Thompson Day? Maybe next year. I was feeling so much younger and thinner before I had to follow the beauty queens. It's our privilege to have been able to provide fair housing services for the City of Vista for the last 9 years. Fair Housing Month is actually in April, so we're just starting to kick that off. But what we try to do every year is involve local school-aged children in a poster contest. So thanks to Teresa Graham, who's also here tonight, she was able to procure a number of gifts as incentives for the children to participate in the Fair Housing Poster Contest, including passes from the Wave Water Park, the Krikorian Theater, Sonic Restaurant, and a number of gift baskets. The children who participate, generally they're given a topic that deals with fair housing. Perhaps they might be asked to draw a picture of a home. It's one way that we have to educate children that fair housing is not just a good idea, it's actually the law and it's their right. And hopefully they can take a lot of the information home to their parents. So on behalf of North County Lifeline, I would just really like to say thank you very much once again. And
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our consent calendar. And I don't believe, we've had no one from the audience request an item to be pulled from the consent calendar. Are there any items the City Council would like to pull from the consent calendar? Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move for adoption.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And that passes unanimously. Could we have someone there in the back row close the door so that we don't hear those people out in the lobby? Thank you. Okay, next, we don't have any discussion items this evening, so that we'll next go to the first public hearing, and that's public hearing number 1, the 2010-2011 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. Mr. Rollins.
I think the city clerk has informed most of the participants in the audience that we're here for public hearing number 2, but just to reiterate, public hearing number 2 on the downtown specific plan has been removed and will be heard on April 13th. Thank you.
Okay, so the only 2 public hearings we have tonight is public hearing number 1 and number 3. Not yet. Okay, Mr. Rollins, would you like to, does he have to?
Mr. Gronk, yes.
Oh, no, okay.
And statewide.
Well, Mr. Gronke serves on the board of directors of one of the organizations and therefore needs to go elsewhere while we discuss this, and then he'll be invited back up following the discussion of that particular organization.
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Rollins.
good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill Rollins, Director of Redevelopment and Housing, and with me tonight is Kathy Valdez, Program Manager, who will go through our presentation on this year's annual plan.
Thank you. Ms. Valdez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The focus of today's item is to conduct a public hearing regarding the 2010-2011 Annual Action Plan, discuss funding recommendations for the second year of the city's 5-year consolidated plan, and open a 30-day comment period to allow for further community input. Although expected shortly, the city has not yet received notification from of its CDBG and home funding allocations for 2010-2011. So the recommendations that are presented today use the current year's allocation. Any increases or decreases will be reflected at the May 11th follow-up meeting. A proposed recommendation for addressing changes to the allocations is included later in the report, and any subsequent changes will be reflected in the staff report for the May 11th follow-up meeting. The combined CDBG and home allocation is approximately $1.6 million. All home funds for this year's will be allocated to the Vista Home Ownership Program. CDBG funds will be utilized to fund debt service obligations, capital and economic development projects, administration services for both the CDBG and home-funded programs, as well as the Fair Housing Program, and public or social service programs. The annual debt service payment for fiscal year 2010-2011 is $514,819. In 1999, the city utilized a HUD Section 108 loan to assist in financing the highly successful Transit Station and Vista Village projects. The current plan is to repay the Section 108 loan from future CDBG allocations, with a loan being paid in full by 2018. Under program guidelines, a maximum of 20% of the city's annual allocation may be used for CDBG administration. However, this year it is proposed that the administration cost not exceed 17%, for a total of $201,555. The city is on target to reach its goal of reducing administration by 1% annually until it reaches 16% by 2011 and 2012. Any savings in administration can be used to supplement capital and economic development projects but cannot be used for public services due to the cap on these activities. We have received a total of 27 funding requests for public services, economic development, and capital projects. All projects meet the CDBG eligibility criteria based on the request for proposal guidelines, as well as applicable federal and local requirements. All CDBG funded activities must either address or provide decent housing, a suitable living environment, or expand economic opportunity for low and moderate income Vista households. The funding priorities for 2010-2011 public service dollars include providing food or similar services to Vista residents, connecting Vista residents with jobs, providing services to near homeless families, anti-crime activities, youth programs, public services to strengthen and support families, providing housing for homeless persons, providing services for persons with special needs, and senior programs. Under Economic Development and Capital Projects, staff recommends partially funding the economic development proposal by the Vista Townsite Community Partnership for the Vista Workforce Development Initiative. Staff also recommends continuing to fund the redevelopment community improvement projects. Funding is not recommended for Casa de Amparo's capital campaign for a new shelter since the project is located outside the city limits. Under public service dollars, funding is recommended for 19 organizations. The CDBG Citizens Advisory Committee is recommending funding for 18 agencies, and staff is recommending funding for VTCP outside the committee's review process. Due to special circumstances facing Vista Townsite Community Partnership and the city's efforts to assist the organization in restructuring, staff conducted an independent review of their application and recommends funding in the amount of $10,000 for the Community Resource Center. The CDBG Citizens Advisory Committee reviewed the remaining eligible public service proposals and interviewed the applicants prior to considering funding recommendations. The committee is chaired by Harvey Bush, and if he and other CDB commissioners are present, we'd like them to stand and be recognized for their hard work. The advisory committee evaluated funding requests totaling $362,485 and had to make the difficult decision of providing how much funding to provide to each of the applicants for the amount available of $167,843. That total, as well as the $10,000 allocated for VTCP, brings us to the maximum allowable level of $177,843. As part of their funding recommendation, the committee considered a variety of factors which include responsiveness to local priorities, attainable and measurable objectives, and collaboration in implementing activities to reduce duplication of services. The committee recommends partial funding for 18 of the 21 proposals. To be consistent with HUD recommendations, the committee adhered to a minimum allocation of $5,000 per agency. The proposed public service allocations will split the CDBG funds in the following manner. Sorry, I didn't go fast enough. There we go. Homeless, 19%. I'm sorry, food and other emergency services, 32%. Homeless, 19%. Youth, 16%. Senior, 15%. Family services, 12%. And special needs, 6%. As previously mentioned, the 2010-2011 CDBG funding allocations have not yet been released by HUD. Therefore, the following recommendations for addressing changes in funding level are being made. For economic development and capital projects, staff recommends increasing or decreasing funding accordingly for the redevelopment community improvement projects. If there is an increased level of funding available for public services, staff and the CDBG Advisory Committee recommend implementing the following changes in the order listed. Allocating funding for the Boys and Girls Club Power Hour program at the minimum funding level of $5,000. Increasing funding to Operation Hope up to the $25,000 amount requested in their application for a maximum increase of $2,000. Increasing funding across the board to food and similar programs recommended for funding up to the amount requested in their application. And increasing funding to other programs recommended for funding based on CDBG Advisory Committees up to the amount requested. If there's a decrease in funding level, staff and CDBG Advisory Committee recommend decreasing funding across the board to agencies recommended to receive over $5,000 in funding. At this time, staff suggests that the council hear public comment, deliberate, and take action on the Angels Depot, for which Councilmember Gronke has recused himself. A suggested recommendation, should the council wish to recommend funding for the agency, may be council recommends funding for the Angels Depot at the level of funding recommended by the CDBG Advisory Committee, which is $5,000. Following action regarding this agency, the full council can then discuss the balance of the recommendation. This concludes staff's presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I don't have a request to speak from anyone from Angels Depot, so that I understand that you would like us, Mr. Piper, to discuss whether or not we agree with that, with the recommendation, and so that we can then pass on to the other agencies and allow Mr. Gronke to come back?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there anything that the council, or other members of the council wish to do in terms of the allocation for Angels Depot? Mr. Campbell?
Mayor, just in the, due to the recession, I think the area of food is a critical area for so many different people in the community, particularly seniors who may not have the resources thanks to higher taxes and higher health care costs. So at this point, I'd like to suggest we go along with staff recommendation.
Okay, very good. Anything, Mr. Lopez?
I think I'd like to go with what Bob just said.
Okay.
Say, because
Okay, very good.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I would like to just remind you, this is your opening, you're discussing, but then you're opening the comment. You're not deciding today on those allocations.
No, we're just discussing it today, yeah.
It's opening.
Okay, is there any discussion, any further discussion? That's a good reminder. Okay, then is it all right for Mr. Gronke to come back now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Gronke, could someone from the staff please advise Mr. Gronke that he can come back? Okay, I have a number of other speaker slips here, and I would assume the council would like to hear those before we discuss anything ourselves. Okay, as I call your name, if you please come forward, and you have 3 minutes to make a presentation. First, Matt Kumaris from the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mayor Vance, members of City Council, and good friends and neighbors. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the staff, and our club kids, we want to thank the City of Vista for their strong support of the Boys and Girls Club of Vista throughout many tough times. And as a bit of earth-shattering news, we're going through tough times again. So we really appreciate your support, and we look forward to obtaining a new school bus program to transport kids from local elementary schools to our safe and positive place after school. And we hope you consider the committee's request, and if there is any additional funds, we can definitely use that too. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tanya Danley?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Tanya Daniele, and I am the Executive Director of Ivy Ranch Park in Oceanside. We're a care and rec center for children with special needs, particularly. We've been around for 29 years. And right off the bat, what you need to know is even though we're in the city of Oceanside, what we serve is 30% Vista, 30% Carlsbad, and the remaining Oceanside. We actually receive from all of North San Diego. We were lucky, fortunate enough to receive funding last year through the City of Vista. There was a slight margin increase of about $2,300 that came through HUD funding, and because we showed well, the City of Vista passed that on to us for our camp program. And with the help of Cecilia with the City of Vista, we are redoing some of our demographics information to better capture exactly who we're helping and the low-income populations, and we want to bring that back to you. But specifically, the request is exactly this, that the special needs population is a core service, and one thing we focus on is the medical and the food needs of people. But with your proclamation tonight, Mayor Vance, you talked about child abuse and that it can be reduced if there's sufficient community resources. And you don't know this unless you have a child with special needs, but if you don't have a place to take your child, and that means during summer, and for camp services, somewhere that's safe and will be entertaining and who understands the child that you work with, you don't have that resource available. We are that resource, and we've been doing it for 30 years, and what we're asking is for partial funding to support the camp programs that we do during the summer. We hope that you will revisit, I guess there are 4 programs that got a little bit more money this year that potentially we could have hopefully a little bit of to meet that $5,000 funding threshold from HUD. but we desperately need the help like every other organization in front of you. And just remember, just because they are not needing food or medical service, they are still needing support in family services. So I respectfully request that you look at those numbers and see if there's some jostling that can be done so that these programs and these children can be attended to and the special needs population isn't left out of what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa Dumont?
Good evening, sir, council members, everyone in the audience. My name is Lisa DeMald. I work with the Emergency Services Department at Catholic Charities. We're at 917 East Vista Way. We've been here in Vista for quite some time, and you've generously supported us over the years. We once again bring our request for continued funding, and we appreciate all the support you've given us, and I anticipate continued support from you. Like anyone working in emergency services, I can tell you our numbers have gone through the roof. No one would have expected the downturn in the economy to result in the vast numbers of people needing assistance. People who were on the margin before, it's incredibly difficult for them, and the newly unemployed, people who never thought they would be asking for assistance are coming through the door every day. We are the only facility in North County open Monday through Friday until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We often receive referrals from agencies in other cities in North County because they are not open at the hours we are open. The vast majority, 83 to 87% of the people we serve, are Vista residents. We have stopped doing other services the last 2 years and concentrated on food. We push food stamps very hard. If you are not already aware of it, food stamp participation in San Diego County is the worst in the entire United States. People need to be educated on the program. They need help gathering the verifications necessary to be granted, and they need somebody who's there to advocate on their behalf when they need to speak up. We have developed a very strong relationship with the Health and Human Service Offices Family Resource Center in the Oceanside area, and I think that's one of the reasons we're so successful. We can advocate on their behalf. We've developed partnerships with Feeding America and the North County Food Bank over the past year and have been able to expand the sources of food that we're getting. But I think the key to one of the things that we are doing much better than what we've done in the past, and we will continue to do, and that is to get people on food stamps. I can give them a couple bags of food and say, okay, I'll see you next month, but I'm not going to be able to give them housing, and I can't restore the economy. They're going to be hungry again. So if I can get them into food stamps, if I can tell them about the free lunch programs that continue on throughout the summer, if we can turn them on to the other discount food programs that are going on here in North County, we stand a better chance at bringing a sustainable source of nutrition into that family's life. So I want to thank you very much for the support you've given us over the years. And again, what I anticipate we'll continue to receive from you. So unless there's any questions.
Mr. Lopez, did you have a question? No. Okay. No, thank you.
Thank you for your
Not this time. Next is Terry Williams, representing Terry Incorporated. Catholic Charities.
Good evening. I'd like to request your support for Terry's request. We serve developmentally disabled adults. We own and operate 6 homes in the city of Vista, 6 residents in each. What we did last year was install small kitchen gardens in the homes to try to offset the food budgets. Our request surrounds expanding those kitchen gardens, creating a sustainable agricultural, I guess a home farming model, so that the clients can experience contributing meaningfully to their support in the community, increasing the nutrition our clients receive, and reducing the cost of our food budgets. This request will also support a master chef and gardener who will come in and revamp all the menus, creating menus that use seasonal vegetables. Again, I just thank you and request your support this year.
Thank you. Next is Fernando Sanudo.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council, and good afternoon or good evening, audience. I'm Fernando Sañudo with Vista Community Clinic. I'm the administrator at Vista Community Clinic, and I'm here to thank you for your ongoing support of our wellness clinic at the clinic. For many years now, the Wellness Center has provided services for families, immunizations, well child exams, senior flu shots, and we've done multiple clinics this year for both seasonal flu and H1N1. Last year, the clinic experienced an $800,000 cut from the state, and this year, as of right now, we're looking to have cuts in addition to about $500,000. Unfortunately, most of those cuts are going to be for our uninsured patients. So they're cutting our funds almost two-thirds, from $500,000 to about $160,000. So with the state of the economy the way it is, we're seeing a huge increase in the number of uninsured patients that are coming in for our services. And the funds that we receive from the state and the county to help subsidize those costs are being reduced every year. So the wellness clinic that we provide is incredibly important because this is our way of preventing folks from coming in with chronic conditions. So we're asking for your support again this year. The PowerPoint that went on earlier today had the recommendations, but they went so quickly I didn't see what the council had recommended for Vista Community Clinic. So I'm here to answer any questions if the council has. Okay. I'm here to answer any questions if the council has any questions on our actual proposal.
I don't think there are any questions, but I understand after the action today, there may not be any more uninsured folks out there.
Yes, and we're looking that hopefully by the year 2014 that there's going to be a change, but we still have several years to go. Okay.
I'm sorry, was there anything else that any of the council? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we'll have Don Stump, and he's representing the North County Lifeline.
On behalf of the Board of Directors of North County Lifeline, I want to thank the mayor and the council for your recommendation of support for our family self-sufficiency services. Last year, North County Lifeline actually saw 44% more clients than we had the year before due to the economic times. And hundreds of Vista residents receive our family support services. Those include emergency assistance with food, clothing, and emergency shelter vouchers for those that are homeless this night. We do employment readiness, and we support them through case management, and then we also do employment placement and then coaching once they get into the job. We also do free tax preparation for low-income folks and help them get their earned income tax credit if they're eligible. And we also do financial education where we work on budgeting and debt reduction. I know funding is tight right now, so I greatly, greatly appreciate your continued dedication to North County Lifeline and helping clients during this very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Nadine Kana.
I'm Nadine Kina, and I live at 1186 Via Santa Paulo, and I'm drumming up business for seniors. And I want to show you of my hat this year. It's got a lot of smiley faces because of the help that you have given us already, and we appreciate it so much, and especially the commission over there that has really worked hard for all the agencies that are trying to get some monies. And I just wanted to tell you that all my clients are seniors I have about 1,900 now. And we do minor home repair. We've done, with our friendly visitors, we've done almost 100 so far. And we do much outreach. I conducted a health and community expo. And it was to do intergenerational, and it was to reach out to the community, and it was held at the United Methodist Church of Vista. And unfortunately, I picked a weekend that was a 4-day weekend, and all the people left town. I don't know where they were to get health and information, but I tried. And so one of the things we do is we put out the Vial of Life to all the seniors in this community and to those who are disabled. And we work with the fire department and that they're trained to look for that, because this important information in that Vial of Life will possibly save their lives. And that's what we do. We're out here to save lives, and we have case management where we guide them. We do a lot of information and referral. Today, I tried to contact a son of one of my ladies that he lives up in some valley in California to try and tell him, we've been trying to reach your mother for such a long time, we cannot reach her. And all her friends are worried about her. So that's what we do. We're trying to help the seniors in Vista, and we thank you so much for your support.
Thank you very much. Next is Catherine Manis. Interfaith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Catherine Manis, and I'm a resident of Vista and the former Executive Director of the Vista Townsite Community Partnership. As you all know, all of the VTCP staff was laid off due to lack of funding in August of 2009. Therefore, it came to a shock when I read page 18 of the CDBG staff report. It states that over $121,000 of previous year funding will be reallocated in 2010 and 2011, and that funds will be used for the Redevelopment Community Improvement Program. I want to point out that during the worst economic time since the Great Depression, CDBG funds were left unspent. Those funds were held back, the VTCP was effectively dissolved, and that money was reallocated. I understand the need to be fiscally responsible, and I understand the importance of the city's redevelopment plans. But what I want you to understand is that setting priorities as you have has affected the relationship that this city has built with the townsite community. I think all of you know how dedicated the staff at VTCP was to making a difference, how hard we worked to foster trust and build communication amongst the city and the Latino community. I also want you to know that we are still owed some money, and although we never expected to work at VTCP again, we do expect to be paid. So thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes all those that have submitted slips. If there's anyone else out there that wishes to speak during this public hearing, now's the time to please come forward. Okay, seeing none. Council, the time is now ours to ask any questions or to discuss. Mr. Lopez, do you have a question?
I have a question. When our committee makes a decision on the organizations, for example, an organization out of town, is there a percentage that they have to, a percentage of people from the city of Vista go to that organization before we give funding to them? Is there a percentage that they have to have from Vista?
There's not an exact percentage. There are general guidelines which are to focus on programs that to primarily benefit Vistans and comply with HUD guidelines, and there's a whole list of guidelines that the council has established in the past, but there is no exact percentage, no threshold amount that has to be met.
So one of them just said a third came from Vista, a third from Oceanside, a third from some other city. Is a third makes them eligible for funding if they have a third?
They are eligible for funding.
At a third?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, this is, we are now opening a 30-day public review period for the proposed, pardon? I asked and no one came forward. Oh, I'm sorry. If the lady would like to come forward and say something.
I'm sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to thank you very much on behalf of North County Solutions for Change for considering your recommendation. And Chris Megason, he couldn't be here, but I joyfully wanted to be here. And thank you so much for, making an impact on our kids and communities. I've been with Solutions for Change for 10 years, and I've seen the impact it's made on our community, and I thank you so much for being a part of the ability to solve family homelessness for all of North County. I just wanted to thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. To all of those that have come and all of those that have submitted applications, I only wish that we had sufficient funds to fund everyone completely. Unfortunately, we don't, and so we do the best we can. And we'd really like to thank the committee, as was mentioned before. They've done a marvelous job each year, and we appreciate their willingness to study these applications and to make recommendations to us. Now, we're now opening a 30-day public review period, and we'll come back, and then that's when the final decisions will be made. Mr. Campbell.
Well, I just wanted to comment on observation here, my humble opinion, that those that came before us tonight to comment about their various programs, I don't know if you could purchase that kind of support, dedication, and caring that they all exhibit, and what they give back to the community and the way they help this community be as good as it is really impressive, and I'd like to thank them all.
Yes, very much so. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee. Their familiar faces there year after year have done a great job, and they whittled this down to where it makes it much easier for me and I think our council. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. I personally know some of you, so thank you. It shows here of all the numbers that we're giving money to, but there's only 3 that you're not. Is that correct? Out of the applications?
I believe that's correct.
Actually applied. How many applied and how many you're not giving to?
There are 22 applications, and 3 applications are not recommended for funding.
The 3 that are here on this list are not?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions by the council, is there any, I don't think there's, I think we need to close the public hearing, or do we need to continue the public hearing? Which is it? Close it. Close the public hearing. And I don't believe there's any other action to be taken, is there? Yeah, we've already opened the public review period, so that's, okay. Mr. Lopez?
One question. This will come back again in 30 days?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so the public hearing is now closed, and we'll, do we need a motion for that, Mr. City Attorney?
It would be nice.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Please do.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland, and your assistant.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Okay. Next public hearing is public hearing number 3, which is the 2005-2012 housing element. Mr. Conley, if those who are exiting, if they could please do so quietly, we would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Vance and council members. Presenting the housing element update, the project includes a negative declaration and a general plan amendment to adopt the next cycle of our housing element covering the period from 2005 through 2012. The housing element law is included in the state's government code, and it includes about 6 basic requirements, including an evaluation of your previous element, needs assessment, constraints analysis, an analysis of adequate sites, goals, objectives, and policies consistent with your general plan, and an action plan for how you intend to implement that. So I'll review each of those real quickly. In our last housing element cycle, which was 1999 and 2004, we had a regional housing needs assessment, which is the number that's allocated to us by the state, of 2,744 units. And of that total, we developed a little under 1,000 units, with roughly 1,700 units remaining at the end of the cycle. In the current element, for the 2005 to 2012 cycle, we included a needs assessment that evaluates the community's profile and addresses housing problems, special needs, and housing stock, and all of those issues are highlighted on the slide. Also includes an analysis of constraints to housing, including market conditions such as the economy and construction costs, as well as governmental constraints to developing new housing, such as our zoning policies and development standards, special needs accommodations such as accessibility, fees, public improvements, etc. Our current regional housing needs assessment number, which is established by SANDAG for the planning period, is 2,267 units, and those are broken into different income categories as shown on the slide, including extremely to very low income, moderate, and above moderate. And each of those categories has to have that number of units developed to be income restricted. Of that total, we've so far within this planning period constructed or approved 1,606 units, which leaves us 892 units remaining of the 2,267. And majority of those units are in the lower income categories, and the reason for that is that it's more costly to develop those lower income units and more difficult. So it's harder for the city to attract those types of projects. The moderate income and above moderate income units are typically easier to get because there's more profit involved. So you can see all of our above moderate income, which would be market rate units, are accounted for. Our adequate sites analysis per the state basically says that we have to show that we have adequately zoned sites to accommodate our remaining housing needs, which is translated into having zoning at high densities to allow for housing. We could not meet those standards without adoption of the downtown specific plan, and that accounts for public hearing item number 2 tonight that was moved to the next meeting. But essentially, there are some references in the housing element that refer to the specific plan where we're just going to have to change the date, and I'll finish that up at the end of my presentation. But to summarize, the state law says you can approve your housing element contingent upon rezoning to show that you have those adequate sites by June 30th of this year. So if we adopt the downtown specific plan by June the 30th, we'll still comply with state law with respect to our housing element. That explains why our housing element is coming so late in the cycle in 2010 rather than in 2005 when we started, is because it relied on the downtown specific plan. The current element also includes a housing plan, which incorporates goals and policies, as well as programs addressing maintenance of existing housing, new housing opportunities, ownership, special needs, removal of constraints, and fair housing, and all those policies are included in the document. I can get into more detail on those if you're interested. We've also included quantified objectives for the development of affordable new housing, for rehabilitation programs and for household assistance programs, and we've identified the number of units that we intend to build under each of those categories or occupy. And the element addresses the remaining housing needs for extremely low, very low, low, and moderate income categories. The staff reviewed the housing element with the Planning Commission on March 2nd, and it was approved 5-0. There were 2 commissioners absent. And the staff recommendation is for adoption of the negative declaration and approval of a general plan amendment adopting the next cycle. One condition, and that would be that any references within the current housing element of the downtown specific plan being approved in March of 2010 would be changed to reflect that it would be approved prior to June 30th of 2010. And so we'd make those adjustments following the hearing. And that concludes my staff presentation. If there's any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Do we have some questions from council? Mr. Lopez?
Yes. Question, a legal question, is that our number 2 item had to be discussed. Doesn't that have to be discussed first before we actually jump onto this one?
Councilman Lopez, that was the original plan, but it is not mandatory. As long as that plan is adopted by June 30th of this year,
okay,
at a subsequent meeting of the council, then it will fulfill all of the requirements of state law for this housing plan.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Conley, the economy has not been kind to the housing market. And when I see the word developed or approved, 1,375 units, can you share with us what percentage of that has been approved but still is languishing due to the financing or the market conditions?
I would estimate there's a couple hundred units, probably in the range of 300 to 400 units that have been approved that have not been built, which would count toward those totals because of the economy. So there's still existing entitlements as far as we, have approved them, and they haven't expired yet, but they are not moving forward.
From a state perspective, we're not penalized for that condition, I trust.
No, we're not.
Okay, so just quick back-of-the-envelope math shows that we're in year 5 of 7?
Correct.
Which would be 71% of the time frame, and we've got 61% of the housing units booked, not necessarily built, but booked. So we have, what happens if we, in the next couple of years, can't fulfill the remaining 892 as far as getting commitments? Because I think in many ways it's far beyond our control. It's a matter of market conditions.
That's exactly right. The city is not obligated in any way, at least legally, to or mandated that we have to provide those units. It's simply a target for each of the jurisdictions to achieve, and you have to do your best to achieve those through the policies that are included in the element. So there's not a real, you're not penalized for not getting there, but you want to have an approved element that shows how you're going to get there and that the policies that you're going to implement to the best of your ability in order to be more eligible for funding and grants and things that come through the transportation agency. It's really trying to make sure that you have that certified element so that you can be eligible for funding from SANDAG, but not many of the jurisdictions hit their totals for this cycle. It's not very common because exactly what you said, it's difficult to build housing,
I
especially
don't think we stand
affordable
out
housing.
in non-performance compared to anybody else, I'm sure of that.
We don't.
At one time, Sandag was talking about the carrot and the stick and looking for support and compliance to the best of their ability and rewarding those cities that worked hard in terms of funding preferences and that kind of thing. Have we experienced any positive treatment because of our good effort here?
Well, not yet, because we're just getting there. The SANDAG's very supportive of us approving our housing element, and once we've done that, hopefully we'll be more eligible for funding in the future, but we haven't had an approved element up through this period in the cycle, so I'm not sure how much it's counted against us, but I know we haven't gotten points for having it done like some of the other jurisdictions did.
I'm just sorry you couldn't hold your public hearing number 2, because that would have given us a lot more information.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your good work on this.
Yes. Mr. Gronke?
Thank you, Mayor. A question about seniors and special needs. I've also seen the SANDAG numbers, and they appear to be that the senior population is going to be increasing greatly.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And if that's true, when it comes to special needs, is that a designation as to the nature of the building itself, or is that a kind of a policy statement?
Actually, both. The special needs population is a specific population that's looked at as part of the element. So people with disabilities or that have handicaps or accessibility issues getting in and out of their units. Anyone that has needs beyond what a normal person would have that aren't financially driven are categorized as special needs. So they do target that population for different types of housing, and there are policies in there that target that audience, as well as an evaluation of what special needs there are in the city and where we need to focus most of our effort.
Okay, so you don't foresee that they would fall out of that special needs category as their population continues to rise?
Not necessarily, no. You probably have more inclusion because people, as they get older, will develop potentially special
I just fear
needs.
that. I just fear that they would lose that designation because as their population becomes so great, people will say, well, that's the standard anymore. That's not the specials.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Are there any other questions the council has? Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. Knowing that in next, was it the end of this month or next month when we do the number 2, that then brings us a higher density in the Santa Fe corridor, correct?
Correct.
So what I'm hearing, I don't think it'll happen, but they say as many as 1,600 units in that area, correct?
I believe it's a little more than that in the specific plan, but that's rough, yes.
So this would definitely, in the next couple of years with the Santa Fe corridor, would definitely be helping these numbers tremendously, correct?
Yes, that was the reason we had to wait to approve this before we were done with the specific plan.
I was in La Mesa, and La Mesa, next to their corridor, their rail corridor, they built either 500 or 700 units next to theirs, so it made it easier so people could travel from point A to point B. I think with the future of our rail coming to our community and having the units higher density in those areas will definitely help our numbers in the years to come. You're doing a good job, John.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? If not, I would then entertain a motion. Let's see, wait. As far as the public hearing has been opened, and if there's anyone that wishes to come forward, this is your last chance. Okay. Seeing none. No, this is the same subject, the housing element. Okay. Okay, then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and adopt the resolutions in the agenda.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and adopt the two recommendations in order.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And that passes unanimously. Okay, that concludes the public hearings that we have. We'll next go to oral communications, and I have 4 individuals that would like to speak under oral communications. The first is Michael Spencer.
About 2.5 years ago, I stood right here and stated that this city had become a third-world cesspool as a result of unabated illegal immigration. I also stated that my daughter, right here, would be starting school in about 2.5 years, and if the situation were not substantially improved, by that time the gloves would come off. Here we are. My daughter is now in kindergarten at Vista Academy for the Performing Arts, and Vista is still a third-world cesspool and deteriorating. On March 11, while picking up my daughter at VAPA, at the end of the day, a series of disturbing events transpired that point to a problem that could no longer be ignored or swept under the rug. A detailed written report is available, but given the restrictions of time, the long and short of it is that while on Vista Unified School District property, and while picking up my 5-year-old daughter, I was confronted by a Hispanic male who bore all the trappings of a gangbanger. The situation escalated dangerously, and I deemed it necessary to call 911. Fortunately, the assailant and his cohorts fled as the sheriff's deputy approached. The situation was diffused, and I gave the deputy my report on the incident. I have since spoken additionally with the principal of VAPA, the school staff, several teachers, and parents at VAPA. As the story unfolds, it turns out that this has been a recurring problem. Recurring problem means again and again. Furthermore, the prevailing attitude is, don't confront them because A, they'll throw a brick through your window, B, they'll retaliate in some other manner, or C, here's the kicker, they may pull a knife or a gun on you. Excuse me? Repeated trespassing and aggressive confrontational behavior on school property by those known or suspected to be carrying lethal weapons, while my daughter is in school less than 50 yards away. Absolutely unacceptable. Whatever it takes, and I mean whatever it takes, this has to stop. Period. We can and we will deal with a specific group of thugs, but we all know that this is only a symptom of a much greater problem of the invasion and deterioration of our culture. We're living in a city infested with illegal aliens and their anchor babies who not only have zero respect, but outright contempt for our existing society and laws. The evidence is overwhelming, indisputable, and visible everywhere. As a result of the above incident involving the safety of my daughter, of another impending amnesty attempt in Congress, and of the abject failure of every level of government to address the lethal effects of unchecked illegal immigration, I am left no other choice than to vocally and actively address this issue once again. There's no place left to run or hide. I'm therefore reacting to the Vista Citizens Brigade. As in the past, we will utilize the multiple avenues available to us as citizens to lawfully and constitutionally attack this problem. I'll leave some copies here for you.
Please leave them with the city clerk. Okay, next is Mary Ann Duryea.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ann DeRoe, and we have a home at 1225 Vale Terrace in Vista. It's across the street from the Brangle Terrace Park. It's a very, very bad and dangerous curve. We've been trying to do something about this for so many years. I would like to say I started as a young person, and I'm an old person now, but I probably started as a middle-aged person. And I'm an old person now. My husband was on 2 accidents where the cars were totaled. He came out of the driveway, looked, it was clear. They speed around the corner. There's a curve. If any of you have gone to the park, you know the curve. It's a bad curve. And they're going like a bat out of you-know-where. And the cars got totaled. He's in a wheelchair. And we really need to do something about that curve. There are many other accidents. He's not the only one. It's a very dangerous curve. I am sure you can approve. We've asked about a stop sign. I'm sure all of you are familiar. Vale Terrace comes, the park is here. There's not a through street because there's a hill on the other side that makes the curve. They say they can't put a stop sign there because there's not a through street out of the park across. Now, I am sure that you can approve, even if it's not in the book, shall we say, that a stop sign be put there. I'm not saying we're going to put a stop sign at my driveway. I'm only saying put a stop sign opposite the park so we can get the people to stop and at least be not going 60 miles an hour when they go around that curve. And I'm sure you can get a special whatever to get a stop sign. And that's all I'm asking is really we need your support because the gal that came out was very nice. She saw how they're not even staying in the street. They're going in the bicycle lane, which is right against the hill when they take that curve. So you can't even be in the driveway. And really everybody's health and well-being is up to you sitting in that seat today. But I think you can have a special whatever to approve a stop sign so we can stop this because it's a sad thing. Being in a wheelchair is not a walk in the park. And being dead is even less of a walk in the park. So I thank you and I let it up to you. But you should put a stop sign there and have a special whatever to approve it.
Okay, just a moment. Mr. Lopez, did you have a question? He has a question.
About the folks that are driving east, is that correct, on the right-hand side?
If I had sense of direction, it would even be better.
Around the corner, you're going east on the straightaway, your driveway is coming on the right-hand side, coming down those hills.
The park is here, my driveway's here. Okay? The hill is here. The cars come around the curve, even though you're sitting and you're clearing them. They're hustling by there, and the gal that came out said, I can't believe how fast they're going. And they had put some little buttons, but they aren't the kind of buttons that are going to slow anybody down. You know, they're boom, boom, boom. They're not ba-boom. And we really don't need buttons as much as we need a stop sign that's going to stop them unless they can accelerate to 60 miles an hour in a matter of feet, I think it would help.
Okay, thank you.
And I thank you.
Okay, next is Terry Duro.
Good evening, all. And I live on 1225 Vale Terrace. Excuse me. And I come home at night sometimes. They're always, not all the time, but at least the last 2 months, they had about 8 or 9 accidents there. Some people slow down to 25 miles an hour, like it's suggested on a yellow sign. They'll slow down to 25 miles an hour, go around the curve slowly, then somebody else is coming right behind it, maybe about 60 miles an hour, and they don't see the car what's in front, but goes 25 miles an hour because of the curve. They cannot see, and they run right into the other person. It happened between 8 or 9 times. It happened in the last 2 months. So they exchanged insurance cards and, whatever, need to be done. But it would be nice if we would get a stop sign there or a big speed bump, so when they go over it once, they fly to the ceiling. That way the second time they won't do that no more, We need something there. It's very, very, very dangerous for us. We have kids playing in the driveway and stuff, and it's not easy. And not only they're passing you on the right side, they're passing you on both sides. When you go in your driveway, they pass you up from both sides. They're so much in a hurry. One goes the other way and one goes this way. You'll be in the middle of it. You don't even know where to turn.
We have a question here, Mr.
Sure.
Gronke.
No, I'm not the speaker, so.
Oh, okay. Are you through?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go on, just for all those that are here in the audience, when we have oral communications, we can't take action on those items because they're not scheduled on the agenda. But what we'll do is then turn these over to the staff to give us a recommendation.
Think of it as your mother driving that street or whatever it is. Just think, how much do you love your mother? You love her a lot.
Right.
I'm
Thank
sure
you very
about
much.
that,
Mr. Gronke?
I guess it would be just about said, but I was going to say that, when was the last time this was studied by our traffic commission? Obviously, those raised
Thank you.
bumps
Thank you.
reflect that it's been addressed before.
I think it's been within the last 2 years, but we will check on that.
Okay.
And if you are asking me to bring something back to council, provide you some information on when we last studied the
I appreciate
speeds,
that.
the speeds on that
Please,
street,
yeah.
we will do that.
Okay, thank you. So did you hear that? We'll bring something back to give us more information as to what we need to do. Thank you very much. We'll see. Okay. Yes. Okay. Next is Nancy Jones, representing Alta Vista Gardens.
Thank you for not making it at 7:30. I was ready to wait till 7:30 when your meeting was done. Okay, Nancy Jones, I'm from Alta Vista Gardens as a volunteer. We're moving right along. We're having fun. I'm having fun. We are developing those 15 acres that do belong to the city. We're at the top of the hill in Brangle Terrace across the street from those ladies. The gardens have been funded so far. We got a Sprint obelisk, so these rent that Sprint pays. I'm not asking for money, by the way. Sprint, sorry.
Well, we're not offering any.
Thank you, John. The Sprint obelisk, they are paying rent, and so that helps us do our development. Cricket has just installed standards for light poles, and that's also some more money. The Children's Garden is developing right along. We're just having a good old time. Thank you for your support of the name and design contest. Just had a great time doing that. New donations that we've gotten. Support from the community. Lowe's donated a teaching pavilion and a shed, so I have a place to teach now. The Stein family, they are landscapers. They are donating a music garden in memory of their son. We just heard the plan tonight. I'm so excited. I got a grant, not very much, $550 from the Farm Bureau, agriculture in the classroom, and we are developing an agricultural garden to show what grows well here in Vista, and the kids will be doing the planting. The agricultural garden fencing and irrigation is being discussed even now as we speak. The Rotary Club of Shadow Ridge Vista is willing to do the digging and installation of the fence posts. So, and they're going to add the irrigation. So we're just having a great old time up there. I did the Fall Fun Festival, and the mayor was a scarecrow judge, and I really appreciated that. So after that, I'm following it up
I met
with
a lot of scarecrows in my day, and I was a good judge.
Yeah. After that, I had so much fun with that. I'm now doing a monthly Kids in the Garden class. We're talking about the environment, art, cooking, and music. I'm scheduling, just now, we're getting into it, field trips for Scouts to come up. We've got Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts both. And the thing that I really want to invite you to come is the Through Children's Eyes. Our photo exhibit is opening April 10th. It will also be there at Earth Day. These are photos of Alta Vista Gardens that children took, and Winifred Meiser has made a beautiful display right now. It's in the children's section of the library. So I'm also talking to the library, the new library supervisor, and I'm going to do a composting session over there on April 18th. Busy. Okay. So what like I said, I'm not asking for money, but I am asking you to join us at Earth Day. The festival is April 24th from 10 to 5. We're going to celebrate with speakers, environmental activities for children, plant sales and vendors, and we'd love to see you all up there. It's going to be a really fun day, and the sun will shine.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Question?
Yes, Mr. Lopez.
To the lady, please. The Scouts are up there now. You say they go up there now?
Okay. I have contact, let me clarify that may answer your question. A group of Girl Scouts and a group of Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts will be coming up for field trips.
Will they be staying overnight, camping out?
No.
You don't do any of that?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's
No.
all.
Okay,
But
very good.
I have done.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate that. Appreciate all you're doing up there. We now have concluded the business of the meeting. We do have some reports or comments from staff and various members of the City Council. So first of all, Mr. Piper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do have some comments this evening. This morning, I was privileged to be invited to UCLA, to the UCLA Anderson Forecast, to a private seminar on the economy, which precedes the public press conference that I believe will take place tomorrow. And it was an interesting program. The good news is that the recession is over. The bad news is we won't know that for a couple of years here. There has already been a marked increase in business inventory, in business equipment, and in exports. What has not yet turned around are housing starts, and they're expected to lag. Business construction is expected to lag even more, and probably most disappointingly, the reduction in unemployment is expected to lag and is not predicted to drop below double-digit figures before 2012. But the view is that all of the other signs, economic indicators show the recession passed its bottom point just a few months ago, and but it's going to be a slow recovery.
Thank you very well. I'm not sure I need to thank you for that one, but we appreciate the information. Mrs. Gelder.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick updates. The Local Taxpayers Public Safety and Transportation Protection Act, the signature gathering is still underway. Vista has turned in the most signatures of all the San Diego cities, 326, but that's very low still. As a region, we're far short of our goal of 10,000. Volunteer signature gathering will continue until mid-April, at which time the remaining signatures will have to be paid for if we don't reach our quota. And this is all for protecting our local tax dollars. And last year alone, the state's budget debacle cost San Diego cities, the county, and special districts over $282 million. And $132 million was unconstitutionally taken, which is still being litigated, which is from the redevelopment agencies. That's $5.4 million from Vista, and $150 million was taken throughout a forced property tax loan, which the state has no means to repay, and that was a $1.6 million from Vista again. another $1.6 million. So local government worked to securitize these funds in what is certainly a one-time deal, leaving us vulnerable in the future, and to remind us that this new legislation, if it's passed and on the ballot and passed, it'll protect local property tax revenues, community redevelopment funds, our gas tax funds, our Proposition 42 funds, public transit funding, and anything else that's locally levied, such as TOT, parcel taxes, anything of that nature. And a real quick update, as of yesterday, the legislature passed in regular session Senate Bill 70 that contains a cleaned-up version of the gas tax swap, which was passed,
I like that.
passed 2 weeks ago, which we know that we will lose on that one. This new bill contains the same provisions as the previous gas tax swap, which the governor has not signed. That was ABX 8-6, but exempts special users of diesel fuel, and we still don't know all of those provisions. Still have to reach the governor's desk and have 12 days to act, so we're not sure what he's going to do. But they have a couple of other economic incentive bills, which we're not quite sure how those will go in. The other issues, where there are a number of groups who are trying to put together Repair California, California Forward, Citizens for California Reform. The first two are no longer active, but the Citizens for California Reform is trying to create a part-time legislature, and they're still gathering signatures. It looks like they have a lot of steam. I think that they might make it. They have until March 29th to submit their signatures. Californians for Democracy, whose initiative would change the voting threshold for the state budget from 2/3 to 50%. They might actually get some action done if that occurs, is still gathering signatures, but they have until July to submit signatures. So, and there's a reminder that there are 5 propositions on the June ballot, and that's Proposition 13, not what you think it is, but it limits somewhat on property tax assessment, seismic retrofitting. Proposition 14, primary election process reform, greater participation in elections. Proposition 15, California Fair Elections Act. 16, imposes a new 2/3 voter approval requirement for local public electricity providers. And 17, which allows auto insurance companies to base their prices in part on a driver's history of insurance coverage. As we can see, we're continuing to be legislated to death, but that is all we have for right now. We just need to continue on gathering signatures to protect local taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Well, I certainly vote for a part-time legislature. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, on the housing element, they talked about disabilities for in your housing. Is that correct, Mr. Piper? They have to build more for disability, for wheelchairs and for disabled folks?
Yes, that's one of the
That's one of the
categories.
One of them. So tonight, when we had the list for the CBG money, the Ivy Ranch had a zero.
Mr. Lopez, I don't think this is really the appropriate time to discuss that. Our public hearing was held, and then we're going to be holding another public hearing to discuss that, so I think it would be inappropriate.
I don't really want to discuss it. I just want to bring out that they are concentrating on disability, but yet we forgot about the little kids. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Campbell.
Well, if you'll bear with me, I've got a few things here. Last week I was back in Washington, D.C., and met with Congressman Ice's office, met with directly with Congressman Bill Bray, Duncan Hunter Jr., and then I ran over to meet with Senator Feinstein's office, and I missed the meeting with Bob Filner. But there seemed to be the priority on the Hill is dealing with health care right now, and the second would be restructuring how the banking system operates, and that's apparently the next in the hopper. Everything else was taking back seat to those first two discussions. There's not a lot of sympathy for California. It didn't appear, and looks like we're a bit out floating on our own. I particularly got that feeling from Senator Feinstein's office, which in the meeting I was in was included the BART transit people and other agencies that are hundreds of thousands of dollars in the hole right now for operations, and it's their feeling that you just cut out routes, you raise fares, you take local money, you do whatever you need to do, but quit bugging Washington for more assistance because you're not going to get any. was the clear message I got out of that. Concurrent with that, I read a report that from Wall Street Journal that says that the federal government now is spending $2 for every dollar it takes in. And I can't afford to do that myself very long. I don't know how long they're going to be able to do it, but I guess they can just print money. Tonight on C8, which was the engineering estimate for lighting landscaping districts, I didn't want to take that out of order, and I just left it there for consent. But it appears that we're $400,000 to $500,000 a year in the hole, and I don't know, Mrs. Geldert, what the aggregate is, but I would guess we're maybe $3 million now negative. And I know this council at one time talked about potentially putting this up for a vote in November, and I don't know if Mary, you'd like to see us have that discussion at some point.
I would.
I think we should. And not let it languish, because there's not many things we can continue to let roll that way until we find some other way to resolve, I think, the losses. Bicycle lanes, transportation at Sandag last Friday. The Transportation Committee moved to the board meeting, which will be this Friday, a discussion on literally a couple $100 million worth of countywide bicycle lanes. And I think it's very, very exciting to have the thought that people can get out of their cars. In fact, the presenter indicated he'd saved $3,698 last year by getting out of the car, and he'd done good things for the environment in terms of air quality and all. But what little I do know, and there's things I probably don't know, I do know that if these are all built using this Transnet funding, that the cities will be responsible for the maintenance. And I know Mrs. Geldert and I had a discussion, preliminary as it would be, about the rail trail, which will be a very exciting thing to be able to get from Escondido to, theoretically, to Oceanside. And our responsibility for maintenance may run $100,000 to $200,000 and some $1,000 a year. We don't know. But once you get into hosting bicycle paths in your community, there's a responsibility to maintain the paving condition, the striping condition, the safety signs, things of that nature, and there's not 1 cent in the Transnet funding proposal to include that. So I made the motion to amend the staff recommendation to include in the next iteration safety provision and funding provision, and I really don't care how that comes about, but I don't think it should be on the burden on the cities with all we have going to keep our paving in good shape. So this Friday I will be sitting in the Vista seat, the board seat, and I'll be making the same recommendation on that.
Good.
But I want to comment, I'm not against bicycles. I'm very much in favor of bicycles. It doesn't sound like it, does it? But I think they should pay their own way. And lastly, I probably should have asked permission to say this for all the CDBG people who were in the room, but today we mailed out letters to all the agencies we could find we're doing a lottery from Full Access Coordinated Transportation using 12 vehicles that we acquired from NCTD for any nonprofit agency that serves the public to get free vehicles. And we'll be doing this before the end of April, and it'll be on a qualification basis. They're all receiving letters, so Mrs. Geldert possibly, and if I can get a list of all the people that have requested CDBG funds, I'll make sure that they also receive the application form, so they may get a free handicapped lift vehicle.
What about a bus?
Well, these are buses. They're
Smaller buses.
Smaller buses with the handicap platforms and the whole thing.
Did you thank Congressman Bilbray for his great help this past year in securing some grant money for us, and for his assistance and all the things that he does for our district, or for our city within someone else's district?
I did indeed, and he was appreciative of the fact that we took the meeting with him. He actually thinks very well of what Vista is trying to accomplish, and earmarking is not something he's going to be able to do in the near future, but it looks like maybe towards the end of the year the posturing may change, because he certainly understands that the pie is still the same size as the pie. It's just the redistribution of the segments will preclude certain districts from getting much of the pie, and that bothers him quite a bit. And he would appreciate anybody else coming back to see him to consider making a donation of sand to the coastal cities.
Okay.
That's his high priority.
Mr. Gronke?
Just 2 items. First, I regret that we weren't able to get to PH2. I really was excited about pursuing that and moving along with that. The second thing I have, On a lighter note, last Friday, the mayor and I were invited to and attended the Marine Marching Band on Camp Pendleton. They were from Washington, D.C. And I had a special guest that I took with me, Lydia Busto, who is very active in our community and certainly well-known within the military community. And I took her along because I knew that she would really enjoy it. What I didn't realize, and she informed me that day, that was Lydia Busto Day in Vista, the day I took her. So, but while we were there, we also met a young lady that graduated from Vista and in 2007 is now in the marching band. And we met a lot of all the young people there were all from all over the nation. You know, it was really an exciting time, and it was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it.
You know, I failed at our last council meeting to really say something about a gentleman that has been such a big help in the whole North County, and he just passed away, and that was Alex Kapisansky, who was lovingly known as the Flag Man, and he had just thousands of flags, and he would do presentations with his flags at various events for both Boy Scouts, cities, whoever would want to do it, and he just did it at his own expense for so many, many years, and was just really as an asset to this whole community. I lived in Oceanside, but it just wasn't Oceanside that he worked in. It was the entire community. And it was a very sad day for me when he passed away, and but I understand perhaps his family will continue with that effort so that the various organizations within the North County won't be lost for displaying their patriotic desires. And so, again, it was really sad to see him pass. With that, we'll now conclude our meeting and adjourn it till April 13th.
Yes.
Thank you for attending.
April 6th workshop.
April 6th workshop is, yeah. Okay.